Ever find yourself, daydreaming about like striking it rich in real estate, closing those $1 million deals and uh, building, those iconic skyscrapers, the ones that just redefined a city's skyline. Well, today we're going to be diving into the world of a guy who, uh, he pretty much built an empire doing just that, Donald Trump. And our guidebook for this journey, his autobiography, The Art of the Deal. Now, this book is it's part memoir, part business manual, and in it, Trump lays out his philosophy, reflects on his early days, and takes us behind the scenes of some of his biggest successes, and yeah, even some of his high-profile stumbles. What strikes me most about Trump's approach isn't so much like the individual deals, but more like this overarching mindset, this think big mantra. It's like a thread that runs through the whole book. It's not even just about aiming high. It's about truly believing in your vision, even when everyone else is telling you you're crazy. Remember the story about the glass facade on Trump Tower? His own father, a successful developer in his own right, apparently thought it was way over the top. Who's going to be looking that high up anyway? But Trump stuck to his guns. He knew the impact he wanted to make. You see that same confidence again and again in the book. It's almost like Trump operates on a different level of instinct. Like he trusts his gut more than any market research or a consultant's report.
You know what's funny? Reminds me of this one time I was trying to sell this old car I had. Nothing fancy, just a reliable beater. And I had this potential buyer come over. All serious, checking under the hood, kicking the tires. But then he starts gushing about the vintage radio inside. Not even the car itself, just the radio. So I played it up, talked about how it added to the car's character. And bam, sold the car at a higher price than I expected. Now, I'm no Trump. But it made me realize how important it is to really read the situation, to identify what really matters to the other person. And Trump, well, he seems to have this knack for it on a grand scale. Take the anecdote about Swifton Village, that apartment complex he bought in Cincinnati. He was negotiating with this guy who was obsessed with this fancy restaurant, the Maisonette.
Look, I wanted to spend more time there than actually inspecting the property. So Trump sees the opportunity, make sure the lunch is top-notch, subtly reinforcing the positive aspects of the deal while they dine. He wasn't just selling a property. He was selling an experience. But it's not all bravado and gut feelings. Trump also emphasizes the importance of protecting the downside, always anticipating that worst-case scenario. It's about calculating risk, not being afraid to walk away if the deal doesn't feel right. And he contrasts this with his experience in the USFL, where he admits he went for a risky home run without a backup plan, and it backfired. Speaking of risk, there's this other story in the book that always stuck with me. Trump was considering investing millions in this oil venture with this charismatic Texan who kept calling him Donnie, which Trump apparently hates. But something about the deal just felt off to him, so he pulled out at the last minute. And guess what? Oil prices tanked. The company went bust. And his Texan buddies' investors lost everything. It's a stark reminder that sometimes the best deals are the ones you don't make. And that leads us to another core principle: leverage. Trump is a master at creating urgency, playing to people's needs and fears. He understands how to make himself indispensable, how to position himself as the only solution to a problem. Like when he was trying to secure tax abatements for the Commodore Hotel project, the city was dragging its feet, so he convinces the owners to announce they were closing the hotel, creating this looming specter of a giant empty eyesore right in Midtown Manhattan. The city caved. Trump got his deal. It's almost like he creates these high-stakes situations, these pressure points, and then swoops in with the solution. And this isn't just about being ruthless or manipulative. It's about understanding power dynamics, identifying who truly holds the cards, and then using that knowledge to your advantage. But it's not enough to just talk a big game, right? Trump emphasizes the importance of delivering the goods, of actually building something great. He says you can't con people forever. You have to live up to the hype, otherwise your reputation will crumble. It made me think about all those gurus and experts out there, the ones who promise the world but can't deliver. Eventually people catch on. Of course, this brings up the question of image versus reality. And that's something we'll explore further as we delve into Trump's early influences, particularly his relationship with his father, Fred. Stay tuned, because that's where things get really interesting. You can't really talk about Trump's approach to business without talking about his dad, Fred. Trump credits him with instilling those core values, like toughness, efficiency, that relentless work ethic. Fred built a successful business out in the outer boroughs of New York City. And Trump spent his early years observing him, learning the ropes. But he also knew he wanted something different, something bigger, something with more, Manhattan flair. It's like, when you learn to cook from your parents, you pick up their techniques, their favorite recipes, right? But then you start experimenting, adding your own little twists, creating your own signature dishes. Trump took what he learned from his father, and, he definitely added his own, let's say, unique flavor to it. And this ambition, this drive to distinguish himself, it was evident even when he was a kid. He wasn't a bookworm. Not really interested in that traditional academic path. He was all about action, about making a mark on the world. I remember reading about how he punched his music teacher in the face in second grade. Claimed the guy didn't know anything about music. Not exactly the best example of business savvy, but hey, at least he was assertive right. And this assertive streak, he continued into his early deals. Take Swifton Village, his first big solo project. Still in college, he takes over this massive troubled apartment complex, 1,200 units, tons of vacancies, and instead of just flipping it for a quick profit, he focuses on the details, replacing windows, upgrading doors, making the whole complex spotless. He understood the importance of creating value, not just extracting it. And this attention to detail is something you see throughout his career. He's almost obsessive about cleanliness. He says you can tell a loser by the state of their car. If it's dirty, they're not paying attention, not maximizing their potential. Kind of a weird analogy, but it kind of makes sense. If you can't even keep your car clean, how can you be trusted with bigger things? Well, some people might call it control freakishness. But I think it speaks to his desire to create a certain image, a certain level of polish. And you see this most dramatically in his Manhattan projects, starting with the Grand Hyatt Hotel. This was a massive undertaking, transforming the crumbling Commodore Hotel into a symbol of New York's resurgence. He needed financing, had to navigate a ton of red tape, and win over a skeptical city government. And it's here that his, let's say, unique negotiating style really comes into play. Remember, New York City was in dire financial straits at the time, so Trump goes to the city and basically says, look, this hotel's a sinking ship. If you don't give me tax abatements, which, by the way, are basic tax breaks, right, I'm going to shut it down, board it up, and you'll have this giant eyesore on your hands. Classic Trump leverage. He wasn't afraid to play hardball, to use the city's own problems to his advantage, and he wasn't afraid to go public with his fight either. He held press conferences, rallied support from influential figures, even engaged in this war of words with the mayor. He understood the power of media attention, how to shape the narrative, and put pressure on the right people. And in the end, it worked. The city caved. He got his tax breaks, and the Grand Hyatt became a reality. Huge win for him. Solidified his reputation as a deal maker who could actually get things done. But even with this victory, he faced some pushback on the design. Preservationists wanted to keep the old Commodore's facade, called his sleek modern design an assault on New York's architectural heritage. But Trump wasn't having it. He argued that the building was a failure, the neighborhood was struggling, and they needed to do something bold to turn things around. And you know what? He had a point. The Grand Hyatt, with its reflective glass facade, became an icon, reflecting the city's energy and ambition. It was a statement that New York was moving forward, embracing the future. And this brings us to perhaps his most iconic project, Trump Tower. This was his baby, the ultimate expression of his success. He wanted to build the most luxurious, the most talked about building in New York, and he did, but it didn't come without its, let's say, complications. Assembling the site was a nightmare. He had to deal with multiple landowners, zoning regulations, and those pesky preservationists again. This time it was over some Art Deco sculptures. On the Bonwit Teller building he was demolishing, he promised to donate them to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. But then, well, he had them destroyed. Now he claims it was purely practical. The sculptures were too damaged to salvage. It would have cost a fortune to move them. But a lot of people saw it as a symbol of his ruthlessness, his willingness to discard anything that stood in his way. It definitely fueled that perception of him as a brash, uncompromising developer. But it also generated a ton of publicity. And as Trump himself admits, even bad publicity can be good for business. And Trump Tower was nothing if not a publicity magnet. The pink marble atrium, those super luxe apartments, it was all designed to create a buzz, to attract the wealthiest, most discerning buyers. He created this aura of exclusivity, of luxury. People were paying top dollar to be part of the Trump Tower experience. It was more than just a building. It was a brand, a lifestyle. And this success fueled his next big gamble, Atlantic City. He saw the potential of casinos, of creating a Las Vegas of the East Coast. But he wasn't afraid to jump in at a time when others were hesitant. The casino market in Atlantic City was still relatively new, and some of the early ventures had flopped. But Trump believed that by building the biggest, most lavish casinos, he could attract the high rollers, the whales, and dominate the market. So he assembles a prime piece of property on the boardwalk, secures financing, and dives headfirst into the world of gambling and entertainment. But as with all things Trump, it wasn't without its, let's say, colorful moments. He claims he even had a run-in with a mob. Apparently some gentleman with ties to organized crime suggested that it would be mutually beneficial if he hired certain contractors for his casino projects. Now, whether that's entirely true or just Trump embellishing the story for dramatic effect, we'll never know for sure. But the point is he faced down those threats, refused to play ball, and built his casinos on his own terms. And they were massive. Trump Plaza, Trump's castle. These were palaces of gambling, entertainment, pure Trumpian excess. He spared no expense, brought in top chefs, entertainers, you name it. He wanted to create a destination, a place where people would come to experience, the Trump lifestyle. And for a while it worked. He was the king of Atlantic City, the face of its resurgence. But of course, the good times couldn't last forever. You can't really tell the Trump story without talking about the women in his life. And specifically, Ivana. She plays a surprisingly big role in the art of the deal, especially when it comes to those Atlantic City ventures. It's not just a case of, the wife standing by her man. She's like actively involved in the business, managing hotels, overseeing designs, even dealing with contractors. Trump clearly admires her work ethic, her attention to detail. He even credits her with the success of Trump's Castle, one of his most profitable casinos at the time. It's fascinating because for all his bravado and, sometimes less than respectful comments about women, he seems to genuinely respect Ivana's business acumen. It's another one of those contradictions you see throughout the book. Trump can be a complex and at times puzzling figure. You see that tough alpha male persona. But there are also these glimpses of sentimentality, loyalty to those he trusts. It adds a layer of, humanity to his otherwise larger-than-life persona. Makes him more than just a caricature. And as we wrap up this deep dive into the art of the deal, it's worth reflecting on the book's lasting impact. It's been decades since it was published. But Trump's deal-making philosophy, his approach to business, it still resonates with a lot of people. Phrases like think big, protect the downside, use your leverage. They become part of the business lexicon. And whether you admire Trump or find him, let's just say, not your cup of tea, there's no denying that he's a master of self-promotion, of creating a brand, of turning himself into a cultural phenomenon. He's like the ultimate salesman, always selling himself, his lifestyle, his vision of success. And you know what? A lot of people are buying it. So what does it all mean? What are the lasting lessons from the art of the deal? One takeaway, I think, is that confidence, even bordering on maybe arrogance, can be a powerful tool in business. It's not just about what you know. It's about how you project yourself, how you convince others to believe in your vision. He also highlights the importance of persistence, of never giving up even when the odds are stacked against you. Remember all those projects he faced opposition on? The Grand Hyatt, Trump Tower, even that Woolman Rink situation. He never backed down. Yeah. And of course, he's not afraid to take risks, to think outside the box. He's willing to challenge the status quo, even if it means ruffling a few feathers along the way. But perhaps the most important lesson, and this might sound counterintuitive coming from Trump, is that success, even on a grand scale, is rarely a solo act. It requires building relationships, assembling a team, and recognizing the value of people with different skills and perspectives. Even someone like, remember Irving, the resourceful property manager at Swifton Village. Trump knew he was skimming off the top. But he also recognized Irving's effectiveness, his ability to keep things running smoothly. It's about knowing how to play the game, to use every tool at your disposal. And ultimately, the art of the deal is more than just a business book. It's a reflection of a particular time and place, a snapshot of American ambition and excess in the 1980s. And whether you agree with his methods or not,
Trump's story offers valuable insights into the world of deal-making, the pursuit of success, and the complexities of human nature. So as you go out into the world, remember to think big, to be persistent, and to never underestimate the importance of building relationships. And maybe, just maybe, you'll strike your own deal, make your own mark on the world.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the world of Donald Trump and the art of the deal. Until next time, keep those deals coming.